a year later at another Californication thing, and
Hotel California.
that's true. And we did play that with Don Felder. Tim mentioned the year before. So anyway, we just talked that night, and he's like, "Hey man, let's get together and talk." And I'm like, "All right, well let's see what this is about." And then initially we got, of course, pretty psyched, and I just said, "Look, this is just a conversation in music.
Yeah.
This isn't. Let's not talk about records and anything like that. Let's just see where this goes." And I just said, "Hey, my life is cool, man. Let's just make some music, and if it becomes a record, it becomes a record." If it's
Oh, you asked him out the first day that we worked together. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah. And so anyway, the first day he was coming over, I thought, oh, Manson's coming over in a little while, like an hour. I got to get mic set up and everything because
the sun was up.
Because I have the day job, I do the movies and the TV and stuff during the day, and usually at night. But I don't know, something struck me while I was setting up the mic, and I sat down and just played the song Birds of Hell Awaiting, and just tracked it, and I emailed it to him, and he was stuck on Laurel Canyon in traffic, not driving, in the passenger side, and he got my email about 25 minutes before he showed up, walks in, "Hey man, can we do something with that track?" I'm like, "Sure." So I had the mic set up, so we would sit, we sit next to each other.
This far apart.
Yeah.
And
that's how that got
no vocal
done.
booth, and
no
that's
vocal
how
booth.
it started.
It would just be him with his guitar, and he put up a mic for me.
The working process between the two of you, Tyler, you challenged Manson on a couple of things with respect to making this record. First, that you wanted him to sing. Talk a little bit about kind of how those discussions went.
Well, I think Manson has an incredible voice. Like there's a multitude of dimension to it that is not common in a lot of singers. And I thought, I know his music enough to know his music, but I didn't know, like when I went on tour, I knew half the songs. So I learned half the songs for the first time I'd listened to them. But I thought that there was something that his audience and myself could get to know about him that they don't already know if he were to sing a little bit more and sort of expose that part of himself. And the songs he sang with soul and just gave into it, and it was great. I mean, it was really infectious, and one song after the next happened.
No, thank you though. But after we were done with the record, then we were doing some press, and he said that he made the music to go around my vocals because he scores films. And I didn't know that essentially when we were making it, but he didn't know that I was actually making my vocals go around the music. So it was...
well, I didn't tell you what I was doing either.
I know, but see, we never had that conversation. We would just sit down, he had a guitar, and I would just... And it wasn't something that was improv. I would come in, and I have one notebook. I didn't bring it with me, but you remember I had one notebook, and it had a honeycomb on the cover of it. It was very Fibonacci, but but it was all written very specifically.
Yeah.
I would write stuff on the way to his place, and by the time I get there, I was writing lyrics for a song that he had already written the night before, and he wrote a new one on the way there, so I had to catch up.
Well, I would always have something.
Tomato.
I would always have something on the table that day, but I wouldn't. A lot of the time with rock records, I think, especially with singers, if they're collaborating with someone, they have to deal with like 20, 30 tracks and sort through all that. And it's not...
Oh, we wrote together, though.
This was written together. This was based on an ongoing conversation.
Recorded together, too.
Right. Yeah. If I understand correctly, all of this music got made while you guys were together in the studio. There was not, the band plays something, he comes in and does a vocal later.
Well, later we brought in a drummer to record, but for the most part, he would sit across like this close.
Yeah.
And when I sang, he did his guitar take also, and then would embellish on it later. But the vocals and the main guitar tracks were first takes, and I would add to them, but most of the vocals were first takes.
How does that change you as a singer? If you are literally sitting there next to him and he's playing the music, how does that change you?
Well, I've never done that before, so I've always been locked in that glass box.
Yeah.
And it's different, and someone had already written music, and I may or may not have been involved in that I'm going to go sing to. But when we're writing something together, it seems more, I have to rise to the occasion because we're playing off of each other, and it's almost like performing live.
Right.
Because when you make a record, for me in the past, it changes when you play it live because you have an audience to perform to. So you're not just singing, you're not just writing lyrics, you're also performing and seducing whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I felt that that was part of the element. And sometimes we would let people be in the room, you know, not a lot of people, just close friends or something, when we were writing songs, just once in a while. And it didn't make me uncomfortable. I thought it made me better at what I was doing. Tyler made me feel comfortable in just doing what I do. And it's felt the same as sitting here now talking about it, felt the same as when I go on stage.
There seemed to be some amount of discussion about lyrical content and about, you know, giving something to your fans perhaps different than you had done previously?
When we initially discussed working together, I said, look, man, if you just converse with Manson one-on-one in a room, you will hear just myriad ideas, so many interesting metaphors.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to inspire people with what's vernacular to him anyway, and to sing it soulfully. And it happened naturally, and I would say that my process, because I have to engage producers and directors and studio executives in a creative process, which they don't necessarily understand the language, right? But they know what they want to communicate. I have to interpret that and create a seamless process for them so they don't feel like they're in the studio and they don't feel like they're deficient in the conversation. And so the way I work, I try and take that stuff, like the studio, out of it, so it's just this.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like when you go in the studio, usually you have to see the front desk person, the first engineer, then these people you don't know, you're in a glass box. His studio was just us two, and he makes wonderful grilled cheese sandwiches for me.
What more do you need?
Well, I just mean it was very much about us making music, and you didn't have the distractions of anything else.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that Tyler did was he didn't have to tell me what to do. He just made it happen simply by putting on a guitar and started playing something, and it just forced me to. I was in awe, by the way. You know this. I'm gonna kiss your ass right now. I was in awe by the way that he could play what sounded like 3 instruments at once, at the same time, and I was suddenly, wow, I have to really bring my game.
Right.
And lyrically, when you were asking about that, he never said anything specifically lyrically. I would just sing something, and the same thing went musically, because if you remember, for example, on Third Day of a 7-Day Binge, but I had to tell him, I said that the guitar line is the hook.
Yeah.
In the same way that he would say to me, he goes, that is the hook. There's no need to really, it was less is more, or when you find something that's perfectly, that you don't have to say so many things if you say it perfectly and profoundly. And I said the same thing to him musically.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, it was a great union.
To that point, we inspired each other to try different things, right? Just not specifically, but just to create the space for each other. It would be 2 a.m, you know, after it was once light, you know. It'd be, come on, Tyler Bates, I know you want to play another take on that guitar. So I would.
Hey, you get a little my voice.
So
I can do that
so
too.
sure enough, I would just improvise over the track and it'd be like, that's it. That's the hook. So it wasn't like either of us telling each other what to do. It was inspiring each other to do something that was fun and dig down deep for something good.
Stood in the face of grim death, screaming monsters bring me to deafness. this. My dagger and swagger are useless in the face of the mirror. When the mirror is made of my face, this is the house of death. Even angels die the arms of demons. This is the house of death, where even angels die the arms of demons. The one who's exposed to the odds of evil. The one is exposed to the odds of evil. No one is exempt to the odds of evil. No one is exempt to the odds of evil. No one is exempt to the odds of evil. No one is exempt to the odds of evil. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something, and some of them want to use you.